We are very excited to have you. By all means, this is Breathing the Life. This is our podcast. That's Donna Martin. I'm Luis Guerra. This is really about mindset. And today we have a special guest who's just like blown me away and blown Donna away.
Nice.
We're very humbled by his mindset and his approach to living. And he does have MS. And I have MS. And so, I've been following him for years on this journey. And then you dropped some information recently. I was like, dang, Donna, we need to talk to this person. Come on. I don't know what he's doing. Yeah. So we'll get into that, but, whatever you want, however you want to frame it, we're going to try to keep this to an hour.
Okay.
Again, it's Kent Jones, everyone. You can follow him on Instagram. What's your IG handle? I forgot it.
I am that guy with MS, and if you go to thatguywithms.com,
Right.
you can see you find me on LinkedIn, YouTube, wherever you want to be. So
Great. Why don't you why don't you frame this a little bit? I have my questions sort of like what I want to go over, but why don't you just let us walk us through this, who you are and how did you get to this place, and let us know.
nope, that sounds good. So 21 years ago now, I was a mountain biker, mountain hiker, all set and everything like that, and I went in for a routine doctor's appointment, and he's like, yeah, you're in good shape, your heart's good, everything, I'll see you in a year. And I said, I just got this one weird thing. And he said, what do you mean? I said, I got a spot on my lip, it feels cold. And everything changed after that. I had his attention suddenly, and he sent me off for testing and things like that, and I got an MS diagnosis, which I didn't know really anything about. It's like, oh, okay, nobody in my family had it. I was the poster boy, but it really was devastating for me. It was a life-changing thing. I had when I went into it again, I was a mountain biker, hiker. I was traveling the world for my job and things like that. And very quickly into that, while I had come in just with very few symptoms, before I know it, I'm having trouble walking. I'm having trouble using my hands. I went to Mayo Clinic, and they looked me over and they said, yeah, you should do what you want to do now, because you're going to be in a wheelchair by the time you're 50. You won't be able to travel or do anything. And so that was kind of a handful to be, to hear.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that it's kind of mindset sort of a thing. It's like, well, I'm not going to follow those instructions. I'm going to find a better way out of this. And over time, I've kind of worked out a 5 elements. I think is to my program that I do for myself. And one is asking better questions. Another is just responding differently. Doing hard things, believing in possibility, and then just having fun. And that sounds really simple, and I kind of got that framed on my Instagram bio, but it covers a lot of ground for me. And so while I went into that, suddenly, I'm being told that I'm going to be in a wheelchair and all that. I tried to fight it. I tried to start doing diet. I had the best attitude. I followed all the motivational quotes and all that stuff, and I ended up in a wheelchair. And spent 5 years in a wheelchair, and really didn't think that there was much hope to get out of that, but was still determined. And I started doing different things with diet and just exploring different things. I think part of the mindset, I was a sales guy for a long time in startups and all that world. And so, having a job where you call 100 people a day and they're like, yeah, no, I'm not interested. Don't call me again. Thank you. You kind of get some resilience in that, and being in a startup and inventing things, it was kind of the same thing. You're trying different stuff that's not supposed to work, but you just keep tinkering with it until it does, and that's been really useful skill set, I think, for me to just kind of keep plugging at this. So at this point, yes, I did spend 5 years in a wheelchair. And all the logic was that I was just going to stay there, and that was it. There was really nothing that could be done, but I just kept plugging away at it. I didn't care that people were saying that it was impossible. I was just, maybe, if I believe it's impossible, then it's over. That's end of game over. So as long as I believe it's possible, then it might be. And I've been out of the wheelchair 4 years now. So I walked 50 miles last month according to my Apple Watch. I'm like, it's been a huge change. So, and I'm not done. I still have stuff going on with MS and other stuff, but it's working, and it's not just for MS. I mean, I think it's useful for overall life and everything. So,
Wow.
anyway, that's and I try to compress it down. Hopefully, that's useful.
Oh, I
That's
love it.
great. That was great. Yeah, go ahead, Donna.
Oh, okay. When you said you were in the wheelchair for about 5 years, at what point do you remember that moment where you're like, I'm not going to do this any longer, or like, what was that turning point like for you?
It's a good question. I think, and it's important to note, like, so the wheelchair was always the bogeyman when you've got multiple sclerosis. It's like, oh, you might end up in a wheelchair or something like that. And it was kind of like that for me. But I've learned that, sometimes we imagine is worse than the reality. And so when I finally was in the wheelchair, I was like, okay, it's a comfortable ride. I'm not resenting it. It's
I don't think I've ever heard that before.
Right,
So
we're
thank
gonna
you.
go ahead and quote that. from now
It is a
on.
comfortable ride.
yeah, it's really not bad. I mean,
Okay.
I got a bright red wheelchair. I was just like, okay, I'm just going to own it. But it was also limiting. So I don't mean to minimize the challenges that come from being in a wheelchair. Suddenly, a 4-inch curb is a huge obstacle. It might as well be Mount Everest.
Right.
And so the places I liked the wheelchair because it was allowing me to go places that I couldn't go when I was just using crutches or canes or things like that. I suddenly had the mobility and energy to go places. So it was a tool to get there. But and again, while it wasn't quite the awful, horrible boogeyman that I thought it was going to be, I still decided I'm not going to do this. This is not what I want to get back to hiking and biking and being out where I was. And I ran across a book of a Dr. Walls that she also had MS and she had gotten herself out of a wheelchair. And I thought, all right, I'll try this, because there's nothing else. There's nothing else out there. My neurologist was pretty clear, like, okay, now you kind of run through our menu of medications and none of them worked. So it was just, at that point, it was on me to figure it out. And so I actually, it was 8 years ago this month that I started on her program. I was like, all right, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to go all in and make it happen. I had stepped away from a business and a career that I had done for a long time, just to like, okay, I need to focus on healing at this point. And I went all in with this diet and actually got a lot worse for a few months. And that could have been the end of the story. That could have been like, oh, this didn't work and all that. But I kept like, I'm going to stick with this. This is a rough spot. I've had these before. Just because it doesn't work right from the beginning doesn't mean it's never going to work. Right. Just keep tinkering with it, and find the good. I think that's been another thing that's been important to me. Asking, and this goes back to asking better questions. If I ask, what's good about this? What did work about this? How could I make this better? That sometimes has pulled a thread that just opened up interesting possibilities. And so while I got worse for a few months, I continued to stick with it. And the summer of 2017, I spent in severe pain with my head between my knees. I couldn't sit up. I couldn't do anything. It was rough. And I had taken a job teaching university, and I thought that I was not going to be able to do that. And because I couldn't sit up. I certainly couldn't stand. I was even having trouble speaking, just getting the air out of me. Such a place that I was at. So that was probably a low point. But it was like just hanging on. Like, no, I'm not going to let this beat me. I'm going to find a way out of this. I'm going to make it work somehow. And it started to break through, and I taught my first class from a wheelchair using my cane as a pointer. The students thought I was nuts, but I kept coming back. I didn't quit, and that semester went on. I kept doing the diet, and I was starting to get a little better, and I was starting to be able to sit up and stand and speak, and the students started noticing, and that was good feedback for me. They're like, Professor Jones, you came in, you couldn't do anything the first day, and now you're standing. And but that kind of progress, even though I was still wheelchair dependent, even though I was still dealing with a lot of pain and things like that, just little bits, that little, what is working, that responding differently. I just decided, no, I'm going to keep doing this.
Now, to cut you off, can you go
No.
back to breakthrough? Like, what was the breakthrough? Because Dr. Wells does speak a little bit about that, because she was in severe pain with trigeminal neuralgia. She was in, and then I think her younger son or daughter, I can't remember, but younger child was like, you got to get up, and just looking at her, and she's just like, I knew it was that moment of like, I'm not going to get up, or I am. That's it. It was like, I'm going to make a decision here, and she did. And that was an event. And so I'm curious for you, what was the breakthrough? What happened? Because suddenly something changed, right? And what was that?
It was mindset. I think even before the wheelchair. So when I went down to Mayo Clinic in 2009 and spent a few days down there going through every kind of test and working with their team, and they were great. I have no complaints. But they came out and they said, yeah, we think you've got one of the rarest kinds of MS. There's nothing we can do for that. You're going to be in a wheelchair. Do what you want to do now. And driving back 6 hours from that, in my mind, I was listening to the radio and it was the get healthy or die, or get rich or die trying was the song that was kind of hot at the moment.
Right.
And I kind of seized on that. I'm like, I'm going to get healthy or die trying. I'm just going to find a way out of this, and seized on that. But I think that grit of not letting go of that is important with this, because there's a lot of setbacks that come with this. Even now, I walked 50 miles last month. That kind of blew me away even, but it was not pain free. It's still, I did it in small chunks, sometimes at 100 yards at a piece. So it's a matter of just sticking in there and finding the good in there. I've learned that progress and perfection are not the same things, and sometimes I'm looking for different things. So if I'm looking for perfect, maybe I'm not going to get it. Walking in 100-yard increments is not perfect. That's not the mountain hiking that I envision.
There's progress, right?
But it is progress, and sometimes the progress, the perfection that I'm looking for, is the perfect form. One of the things that I learned the hard way was because I'm really stubborn, and I would claw through, limping, and I had braces and doing all this kind of stuff. I don't care how much pain I'm in. I'm just going to keep going, and that was good. But at the same time, that a lot of maladaptive patterns. I learned, that over time that kind of bad patterns, dysfunctional patterns, are not healing. So sometimes what I'm trying to do is even if I wanted to walk 2 miles today, and I'm clear that I'm not going to be able to do that, I can celebrate that, my walking form is perfect. The way that my knee is lifting or my foot is lifting, that is perfect. That is good form, and I just keep doing that. But I think that can be expanded to a lot of things. It's sometimes the thing that we're doing, we can't do everything that we want to do, but sometimes I can do this part is ideal, and then build from that.
Yeah. Well, just listening to you and your story, I think that, I don't have MS, but I am a normal, a human being that goes through feeling like I'm not perfect, or feeling like, am I doing enough, right? So what it sounds like is you celebrate these small moments of the accomplishments, whatever small, big, right? But you're being aware that you're accomplishing these things and giving yourself the permission to not be perfect.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we can benefit from.
I think so too.
As anybody.
I think anyone listening to this, MS aside, can benefit from that concept. That's the simplicity of progress, not perfection. Because some of us are perfectionists, right? And it's It's not
Me
about,
too.
you know, it's not about that. It's like I used to run. I used to run like half marathons. I used to run all the time, outdoor trail running. I can't run anymore, right? And so I can warn, but what is that really? That's not really walking. That's not movement. That's not doing anything to get to my goal of, yeah, one day I want to run again. Okay, well, maybe I'll just shuffle. Maybe I'll slide. I don't know, but maybe I use my cane. It doesn't really matter. The point is, like, if I live in that victimization of like, oh, I can't run anymore, poor me, I won't. I won't even
Yeah.
try. But if I remove that and I think positively and I wake up, I'm like, all right, my legs feel all right this morning. I'm going to just do it. Then I do it,
Yeah.
you know?
The-
Do you have those moments where you're like feeling very defeated or feeling, you know, like low or a low point? Yeah, what
Change
is your
that.
mindset like in those moments?
Love that.
When
Yeah.
you go with
I no, that's a good question. No, and I absolutely do. I mean, there are moments where like this isn't working. This is just painful. What's going on. Uh, but I have learned to assess things. That little bit differently. Like uh, pain and fear are signals. But they don't always correlate to danger. And that's been important. I think a lot of times, when things hurt, people go, "Ah, it hurt. I stopped." Most of what I do hurts, but I recognize I'm not doing any damage. It's honestly sometimes plowing through it. I'm getting stronger, but just that belief to that things can improve. Trying to find the good in there, just getting really focused on what that is. That and kind of Luis, to your point about wanting to run and not being able to. I get that. I mean, I used to hike 20 miles on the Appalachian Trail segment. So walking 100 yards, in a little subdivision doesn't come close to that. But if I frame it in my head the right way, it's like, no, but this is a step towards that. This isn't everything there. But I look at what I couldn't do this at all 6 months ago, and now I can. So who's to say what I can or can't do in 6 months? And I don't know whether 100% I will succeed, but I don't care. I think I'm having fun with it. I try to make a game out of it, and so that's part of how I get through this.
Interesting. You gamify is what I'm hearing. Can we pause 1 second? I just want to make sure that
Yeah.
I'm recording, but I want to
Yep.
talk more about gamification because I think that's really interesting, that strategy. I'll be right back.
Sure.
I'm gonna grab a water too.
Okay, so yeah, we're still rolling. So gamification, talk a little bit about that because I think that's a great technique, and I think I'm 50, right? So my generation is probably not necessarily thinking about games, but I think that's a really great technique. And speak a little bit about what do you mean exactly?
I think just if you make it a game, it can be a stupid thing. It can be, like, let's face it. Look at sports. Throwing a ball through a basket, or hitting a ball so it goes in a small hole. People get really obsessed with it. It's kind of a stupid, pointless goal, but we have fun with it, and we can celebrate the achievement. And I can do the same thing with little progress that I have. It's like, hey, my knee came up that time. As I sit sometimes and sitting not at all. Actually, I'm on a treadmill, but I've got a mirror and I can watch and see how far my knee is coming up and is it the right form and that kind of stuff. But just trying to make it play. Because if it's work and it's all grudgery and I hate this and I don't want to do this, then it's miserable. But if you can make it a game and that kind of takes down I suck at basketball, but if I enjoy throwing the basketball just to decompress or whatever and just having fun with it, that's all that matters. It does, I don't have to be good at it, and that I think for me sometimes with my MS stuff, I'm not great at walking still. There's a lot of things that I'm still not great at, but if I'm having a good time with it and I can laugh at it, everything's funny if you can laugh at it.
Back to Los Angeles driving traffic because we live in LA, but I want to make the point that like Donna was like, no, I just use this time to like, I think, I meditate, I make calls. It's my office time. This is great. I'm in the car for a minute. I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
amazing. Instead of hating on it, I'm like, that's
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's just to really simplify it. It sounds like what you're saying is like if you can find a little tiny joy into whatever it is that
Whatever it
you
is.
feel like could be the miserable thing, right? Like find the joy in that, and all of a sudden your body is like flowered or like water with this all this excitement of like, okay, I'm doing the thing, and so yeah, to his point, like yeah, we sit in traffic a lot, so I don't complain about it because that's what I do every day.
Never. You never do.
It doesn't get me anywhere if I complain about it.
Right.
So I find different things to do in the
Right.
car that finds, like that benefits me. And I think that's what we want to share with the world, right? Like it's all about mindset. How do you go from like, oh my
Yes.
God, this is awful to like, there's like something to this. Oh, there's joy in this, or there's like, it's not as bad as I thought.
No.
Yeah.
What happens to you? What happens to your mindset when it kind of goes to the like, oh my God, this is awful. Do you have
Severe pain.
techniques or tools or pain that where you're like, no, I'm bringing you back, or like however that comes?
Or even one technique.
One
Just
technique.
one simple like that people be like, oh, that's a great idea.
I think for me, a lot of times is don't suffer before you have to. Yeah, because and I find I've got a really good imagination. I'm very creative, and so I can think of all the horrible things that will happen and all that, and yeah, I'm all kinds of fun to talk to. If you're worried, I can find. Do you worry about this?
For the long episode.
About death. Death and description.
But most of those things aren't going to happen. That's the thing I have to remind myself is just come back down to earth. It's like I can think of 100 different ways that I might die, but I can't. I won't die 100 different ways. I'm only going to die one of them, and so I will worry about 99 things that didn't happen. And so that don't suffer before you have to has been kind of a powerful reminder to me of just am I suffering right now? No. If this moment is okay, or there are good things in this moment, then that's enough. I mean, I'm enjoying this conversation, but as I'm standing here, I'm in some pain. It's just part of the day, and it's like I could get fixated. Oh my gosh, I hurt. This is bad. But I'm trying to focus on the bigger picture. Is what I'm doing. I'm loving this, and hopefully it's a useful thing. So.
Yes.
I'm fix it.
Moment. You're present is what it feels like. This conversation is very present, it's very focused. So yeah, I just want to point that out. It feels very present. Like what you're talking about, living in the moment is like you're present. That's what it feels like. That's what it sounds like. And
Yeah.
to me.
No, and I find that whenever I come back to the moment, right? Like I see you, I can smell the air, I can feel my hands. It's like everything's all right. I'm alive. You're alive. We're talking. We're sharing.
Right.
This is like the experience that life is meant for us, right? And as long as we can stretch this out and continue, like you might get off the phone with us, you go outside, you see your neighbor, or you see, so I capture those moments and hold them in my box all the time of like, and I guess from that, it flowers into like multiple different experiences where I'm like, every day is like, this is so amazing. Everybody, get your bag. We're going on a really
amazing.
nice journey.
Yeah.
What are you doing over there? You're like, why are you like afraid and depressed? It's like, look at this, live. We're live,
Well, that's a huge point. I mean, it's what you focus on matters. Like, and again, so I've had the unusual experience of going from let's say a high level of physical ability with the mountain biking and hiking and all that kind of stuff into the wheelchair. I had 5 trigeminal neuralgia. I had 4 months where I couldn't speak or eat solid food. I mean, it was rough. And that's severe pain. That'll sober you up real quick. But I could focus on all the stuff that I lost, and that whole journey down. But it's also a lot more fun, I find, to focus on the joy coming back up. I mean, celebrating stupid things like I was able to walk up a flight of stairs. Yay! I mean, but recognizing that I couldn't do that before and really feeling joy in that moment. And I don't know, could I do it tomorrow? I don't know, maybe not, but I'm doing it right now and I'm liking that. You know, that has been powerful for me. Just keeping coming back into that, but just focusing on the positives. Again, this goes back to asking better questions and responding differently. I guess it's just, if I'm looking for what's good in this, what could be good in this, you find what you look for. And if you're looking for the negative, you'll find that. And for me, that's not healing. One of my favorite compliments that I ever got, I walked into a physical therapy appointment. I was in bad shape. I couldn't turn my head. I walked in this way because I was in a lot of pain. And the therapist was like, "How are you doing?" And I'm like, I'm better. And they laughed and they're like, "You are the king of better," because I'm like, "How are you better?" And I'm like, I found this part moves, this part doesn't hurt today, but I think better can be a measure of healing and success, and whatever you're going for. This isn't even a medical term, but just that improvement, even if it's not perfection, just moving closer to that compass has been really powerful. And for me, that's energizing. That kind of energy is healing and motivating and resilient for me. Whereas if I focus on the negative and what I've lost and this is awful and all that, and I see that people getting angry and scared and all that, and I don't dismiss that because there's valid reasons for feeling that, but it's not healing energy. So I just try to not use that.
Yeah.
So he's basically, I mean, like what I'm gathering from this, and I don't mean to refer to you in third person, but like the conversation that we've had, it's like you just like you're framing your situation. There's an observation I will bring in, or I might not, but you're not using a specific word because you're just not going there, and that's fascinating to me. But also you're framing this very positively, like everything that you have and so therefore, even though I know you're whatever, dealing with pain, which is very challenging, right? I know that from my own journey with pain. It's still how we frame it. It's still a gift, and and I remember going to my first visit at a pain clinic, and they were like, "We can't put you on a med." I was like, "I don't want any meds." They're like, "Speak to our psychologist," and I'm like, "Please." And that's when I started to understand that there can actually be a relationship with pain, just like anger, just like joy, just like anything, right? And so it's really how we frame it. And what I'm taking away from our conversation is that you're just framing this situation so positively, and I think that's going to hopefully transcend to, or it's going to be communicated to other people. I don't know if you have anything to say about that, but that's fascinating.
Yeah. So for someone that's gone through severe pain to the point where you're in a wheelchair and you're not able to move your head, you have such confidence, right? And there's that confidence is what's leading you to the next step and to the next step. And it sounds like confidence that you found in yourself is from finding out, asking a bunch of questions, trying stuff, taking tiny little steps, and that's what's leading. And I think, a lot of times we say confidence, it's like, oh my God, you have to come out as this powerful person and you have to have all this money and da. But this is why we're trying to simplify this. Right. It's really about just ask a bunch of questions, find it out for yourself, believe in yourself. No. I know, Louise and I talk about this all the time, is that we all have that really magical machine inside us and in our brain, right? And as long as we exercise those, just like you're trying to go up the stairs, it's like, it's a muscle, right? It's a muscle from going oh my God, everything's wrong, to everything's all right. Everything's really great because ... So
the question is, have you been able to share some of your story and your perspective, your mindset with larger organizations? Have they asked you what are you doing? Because this to me is this is part of the solution. I'm just curious if anyone is besides us, we're newbies.
Because we love your story. And
Yeah, has
we're
anyone
starting to love
approached you? Yeah, has anyone approached you? Be like, Kent, you should talk to these people. They need to hear you. Whatever it is.
A little bit. It's coming, and I'm happy to do that. I mean, I've been just trying to put out the content on social channels and things like that, and it builds slow. And I've been doing it for a long time, and I'm like, if somebody listens to this and finds it useful, that's great. I don't need it for the attention. It's not, I don't care if I get one person that it helps. I've been trying to find a path that's worth following, and if I can find that, that's worthwhile. But I do recognize that this is a challenging thing, and the experience that I'm going through, while mine is kind of triggered by multiple sclerosis, there's a lot of things that can be bringing this up for people and dealing with the stress. So back to the trigeminal neuralgia just for 1 second, because that's been a recurring thing that I've had for about 10 years. It's just like little bouts of it. It would come. And it's I hate to say it, it's got the nickname the suicide disease for a reason, because it's blindingly painful. I've been electrocuted, and it's worse than that. So it's like,
Right.
but finding a way through that, and I still even now I've been in remission for 5 years. But I will still just be there, and I'll just like a needle jab in the side of my face. And it's like, I could totally lose it and go, oh my God, it's coming back. It's, take cover, incoming. And I don't, because what I learned dealing with it, and this is the real paradox sometimes with the pain that I found, is that, when I was dealing with that, my neurologist looked at my MRIs and he said, I can see why this is happening. You've got a spot on your brainstem that's problematic for this. But he said, it hasn't changed in years. He said, so something else is going on. And I realized that there was. I was teaching, and I had a bunch of grad students, and it was end of the term, and I was stressing with that, and I was having relationship issues and stress. And I learned that energy, I don't take it very well. It comes out. I've always been the calm, collected. If you're going to be going into a burning situation with work or whatever, I'm your guy. I'll be chill. But the problem is it comes out. Even though I'm chill at a lot of levels, I just have learned now it's all in there. And physical and mental health, I've learned are the same thing. I used to like to think that they were just church and state, totally separate, and that's not true. So my stress very much comes out as physical symptoms, and I've had to manage that, and so part of what I've done, and I've talked about this a little bit recently, but it's dealing with it a little bit more like flow. When I first got diagnosed and I was dealing with it, it was very much a warrior kind of a mindset. I'm gonna go at this. I'm gonna, 2 men enter, 1 man leave, that kind of a thing. And I get that. And I'm not saying that it was bad, and I see people that are angry about their condition or whatever, and they focus on that anger. And if you do that for a little bit as a power source, okay, that's good. But for me, what I found is just, it's much better just to kind of flow with things and just be patient and just be a little bit more like water. Water seems soft, when throwing up again, water is soft, rock is hard, but water can defeat rock. You give it time and persistence. And I've just found that to be a good metaphor for a lot of what I'm dealing with. And just so I try to be a little bit more like water and just flowing with the circumstance and not being so combative. But that was part of how I kind of dialed things down from the neuralgia and some of the other stuff that I've got, is just dial down the temperature.
On flow. I love that, by the way. I love, and I completely agree. Like the warrior idea, the MS warrior, like to me is just sort of like, that's overdone. I don't feel like that's the energy that I personally want to bring. I want to bring more about flow. I don't want to bring any of that energy, actually. I want to bring the flow and the gentleness. And I would love Donna to jump in there, because she and I have spoken a lot about this.
Yeah, and as you basically accept the fact that you are in this life and this is what is the next stage is, and you're adapting to it, right? And it sounds like you're like, okay, I'm gonna flow, right? There's a reason why they call it flow. It's just kind of, you imagine it's kind of going through whatever, it gets hard, you go hard. If you get soft, you go soft. And so I don't remember exactly when that moment was, but I was like, oh, you mean I just flow? I mean, it sounds like it's redundantly said, or I'm like, oh, I just move with whatever. Okay, got it. But also the thing that helps me is that like I show up as myself, as this gentle person, as this kind person, and I observe people rather than adapting to them, right? So I'm still me, I'm grounded, and I am observing, and I'm delivering my energy and my kindness and my love to whomever. It could be like the most angry person. Okay, I got you. This is not about me. This is whatever is going through, and I give it compassion. I walk away. It sounds easier said than done,
Right.
but oftentimes I catch myself like,
Right.
okay, I'm agitated.
Right.
What is going
The
on?
trigger, like then we get triggered by pain. Like you were saying, neuralgia. I have like peripheral nerve damage, so I get treated like trigeminal neuralgia with the same medications. It's the same approach, but it's actually damage done to my peripheral nerves for my CNS, right? So like they think that, but I don't have trigeminal neuralgia, and I have a friend who has explained the severe pain she had, where she couldn't go outside. She shaved off her head. She stopped eating, and but then it went into remission, and she was like, your neurology will change. It will shift. So just be patient. Yeah. And so for me, the patience, the flow, without pain, there is no consciousness, with really trying to portray this as this is a gift. That took some time for me because it was so it was so kneecapping, right? It was so like, you want to see a grown man cry? There you go. Right?
Yeah.
You're talking about electrocution. It's like, that's nothing compared to what we're talking about here, right? The amount of pain. And I'm on severe meds like you are, and I still get it. And it's still maybe like 1/5 of the pain. But my point is, without adapting a mentality or a mindset of flowing with it and really trying to receive the benefit of this, it would crush me. It would just absolutely kick my ass. And then that's one thing. And you alluded to stress in a stressful situation. My body was like, you have to start removing yourself from a stressful situation, or you're either self-medicate and die, or you're going to be crushed by it and die.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, that's what it was doing. And now it's all about regulation and about calm and about peace and about gentleness and about love, because I don't want these attacks to be daily. They happen daily. I've spent years of it where it's daily. And so it's like, I don't want that, because it is disruptive, it is disabling, right? Because you're suddenly like, you can't call, you can't email, you can't talk to anybody, but it's going to pass.
Yeah.
So if you're just patient, and that to me has been very much the adaptation of the flow and how to integrate this into my own journey, my own life. And then, of course, that spills into all kinds of other things, all kinds of.
I have a question, though. I have in terms of how because it sounds like because of MS, you're more mindful of your environment, right? Like when you're in a stressful, you're like, no, my body will not. So people without MS, that's also happening. It's not as aware because your body is not in so much pain where you have to be aware of it. My point is how do you protect yourself from those types of environments or situations where your body is going, can't get out of here, you must come back to
Yeah. No, that's a good question. I think one of the things that's helped me with it is separating the ability to observe what's going on and how I feel about it. Because I've learned that there's a lot of things that have happened to me that I thought were bad, but turned out to be good in hindsight. Even MS. there's a part of me that is grateful for MS, which sounds awful to some, but it's like, but I'm a better person. I've learned a lot because of this. I've had good, positive experiences. The people that I've met and come into, I could, if I focus on it, I can come up with a whole list of positives for that. And for me, that gets more to the flow state, the healing state that I'm trying to get to. If I do that, so where I think that translates is when something happens, I try to just observe what is happening, but separating how I interpret it can be useful. Like what could be good about this? What might benefit might come from this? Looking for the good or the potential good or whatnot, and that it's maybe that sounds like trying to be Pollyanna and just just making stuff up, but it's not, because it's a lot of times what seemed to be a good thing initially turned out to be awful. I think we can all come up with examples of where we thought we won the lottery and it turned out to be awful, and times that we thought that we lost everything and it just somehow turned around. But I've learned trying to put myself back into that state of possibility. And uncertainty is a huge problem with MS, because nobody can tell you what's going to happen. I mean, is it going to get better? I don't know. Is it going to get worse? I don't know. How's it going to get worse? I don't know. I mean, it's really frustrating and scary for a lot of people. But if you can kind of embrace that and recognize that uncertainty goes two ways. It doesn't all have to be, uncertainty doesn't always have to go to dystopian, horrible, end of times. It can turn into something amazing and cool. And I think that's useful.
Have you consciously, like, have you journaled? Like, how did you get to that? How did you get to that place in your mind where you're like, were you telling us, it sounds conscious, right? But how did you find out about that or realize that? I didn't mean to cut you off, but
no. It's good. It's a good question. It's I mean, I part of it came from the trigeminal neuralgia. Dealing with pain. Pain and I are old friends, and to the point that it's like when it comes, it's like, oh, you're back. Okay, whatever. And I have journaled about this. Sometimes I will just, I've got a lot of stuff recorded. Because I can't not necessarily write. My handwriting skills and typing skills are trash. So, but I will sit. If you watch my channel, you sometimes see me sitting in a sauna and at 145 degrees or whatever, and I'll just start talking and recording it and whatnot. But that meditative space for me is useful to just kind of reflect on different, what's positive and how can I relax this? How can I use this? And just going through that. It's been a process. And again, I did have some history with this, the sales skills and the startup skills. I don't mean to overplay that, but it's just been a powerful reference point to me to just not get discouraged and find. I've had, as a sales guy, you get assigned as this is your territory, these are your customers, and sometimes you look at it and you're like, oh, this is awful. No one will ever buy this stuff. These people are horrible. I don't want these customers. But you don't always get a choice. And finding a way to make it work when you thought you had nothing to work from, and turning it into something great. I've just had enough of those opportunities where that worked out that I don't fear it as much. And it's just to realize, hey, I just haven't figured it out yet. I'm going to keep playing with things. Yeah. It's kind of, for me, it's kind of cooking. I actually like cooking and playing with spices and flavors and things like that. Sure. But it's kind of the same playing mindset of just trying different things and stirring it up a little different way. And does this work? Maybe, and then again, it's kind of a game.
So interesting.
I love that.
Me too.
The day that I realized, and I don't remember exactly that moment, but I do remember thinking, oh, you mean like everything I think is not really facts. and then all of a sudden everything changed, right? Like everything was like, oh, it's just like kind of this weird thing that goes in and out. So now like I thank my brain, like thank you for like taking me there. I appreciate that, thank you for the memories, and then I like come back. But I think the huge motivation of our podcast is to kind of support those or kind of, not in severe pain like you, and again, like through that pain, you found this freedom to be able to do things that you love and, like shift your mindset to this beautiful place and ease.
Yes.
But like, what if you didn't have to? What if you don't have to, you don't have the pain and have to do that? What if you just like, oh my gosh, I actually can do that right now, right?
Yeah.
Move from like everything is so awful to like, oh wow, this is really nice. I have so many things in front of me. I have a roof over my head. I have food to eat. And if you don't, wow, look at this sand that I'm feeling, whatever that is. But like, we are loving your story. We're loving the way you're seeing things. And it's a huge benefit. It's a huge benefit that you're sharing this story with the world. And I love what you're sharing on IG too.
I do too. And I definitely will do my best to connect this story with people that can hear it, can hopefully, will benefit from my work and also from my connections or contacts in this world. But it's really inspiring. And I it's when I listen to you speak, it's sort of the opposite of another story that I have heard within MS of just the like, I'm so defeated, I'm so victimized, I'm so deprived, I'm so isolated. And you're like, but you're really not. If you go here, you're really not. So I want to share this to people that really do. I think there's a lot of like, defeatism because it is scary, right? You go into your neurologist's office, you're like, hey, you're the expert. Tell me, I'm going to be better by if I do whatever, X, Y, and Z, if I take this drug or if I walk or if I go to physical therapy. And they're like, sorry, man, we don't know. we don't have the answer. And that can be a little shocking to a lot of people. Like what Donna was saying, it's like, we don't have to get to that. It doesn't have to be a mess. It could really, so my question for you, and we'll start to wrap this up, but my question for you, have you been able to share or what's the response from your students? They see you, they're watching your journey sort of unfold. Are they like, because they're essentially in real time watching this go down, do you feel like they're going to be equipped to deal with whatever life throws their way as they go? I'm just curious, like.
No, it's a good question. And I hope as I was teaching classes, because I did that for a number of years and loved it, but I recognized there were two lessons going on in parallel. There was the one that I had on my little slides and all that other kind of stuff, but there was kind of the parallel of just how you deal with stuff and the challenges that can come. You made the comment about the thoughts, and I think that's a huge thing to kind of keep in mind, that I try to keep in mind, is my perception of what reality is and what things mean and who I am and how this is and how important it is. It's all made up. It's all just cooked up. And I say that with some confidence, because if not that I want to do this, but if you suddenly find me out in the woods or something like that and nobody knows, there's no evidence of what I believed. All the stuff that I hold so dear, like, this is who I am, I'm an American, and these are the things that I believe, and this is my philosophy, it all goes away. We're down to dental records and stuff like that, and that's kind of a morbid twist. But my point is just, if I recognize that all these rules and structures and what's possible and who I am and how this should be is a construct, I can rewrite the story. It's not etched in anywhere, and that gives me a lot of power to change it and see what's possible. And that's responsibility I have to take for myself. If I buy into, I'm angry, I've been wronged, this is the world has harmed me, and this shouldn't be this way, and I don't deserve this, or worse, I do deserve this. This is my karma. Healing is not possible. I hate, and I understand why they do it, but I hate when people say like MS is a progressive disease. I'm like, screw you. You don't know that. It often is a progressive disease, but I mean, I'm 21 years into this. I'm Benjamin Button MS. I'm going backwards somehow. And I've confirmed. I went and saw a neurologist recently, and I said, is this just me being a trooper? You know, is this And he's like, no. He said your spinal cord was battered. I'm looking at your MRIs. He said any neurologist looking at it would say, what kind of wheelchair do they use? And he says, he had just done an hour's worth of testing on me and things like that. And he's like, you're seeing healing that we don't normally expect to see with MS. This is really remarkable. And yeah, no, I'm like never hearing that after listening to that you're going to be in a wheelchair. It sucks to be you. I listened to that for 20 years. It was kind of an amazing. I'm still kind of processing that. I haven't posted a lot about that because I'm just kind of churning on it a little bit. But it's possible. I think that's kind of the. It's not that he said I love what you're doing because you didn't do it with a magic pill. I'm not against medications. I had an allergic reaction to my MS med and I went off. But I'm not on any heavy duty pain meds that I was on for the trigeminal neuralgia. I'm not currently on a disease modifying therapy, and I think that could be fine. I'm not against that. Please don't think that I'm against meds. But it's just my takeaway here is not that I have the silver bullet here, do this thing, as much as it's possible. Nobody believed you could run a 4-minute mile until somebody did, and then everybody was doing it. So I'm just hoping, like, okay, I just ran a 4-minute mile. Look at this, and if I can share how I did it, great. But if it's just for people smarter than me, or just they got that same strength, you guys listen to this, you can take it into your world, and it's possible. I'll find a way.
For sure. That's exactly what we're trying to do, is to spread these stories. And it's fascinating. I could keep going on with you and talk about like mind over matter and healing, the ability of the mind to heal the body and blah, blah, blah. But I won't. I have one more question for you, but I don't know if Donna has any others.
I'll let you go. What's your question?
So I want to know the power of music and sound. So what are your top, give me 3 bands that you just love? Because I see it on your ID, I'm like, this is like an old rocker. Come on, let's go, Ken.
Yes.
All right, let's go, Ken.
I'm a diehard metalhead. I took off my Motorhead T-shirt before this interview. Just
leave it on, man. We don't care.
It's all right. It's
Next podcast, you can wear whatever
you want.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now I'm a Motorhead fan. I saw Slayer first row in a wheelchair. That was one of the best. When you go solo to a Slayer show in a wheelchair, it's kind of a voyage into the unknown. But I was like, it was awesome. I was, because they didn't know what to do with me at this venue, so they rolled me in with the photographers, and I'm like, oh, this is amazing.
I love it.
Yeah. I was right there. Everybody, yeah. Now it's but that energy, the gritty energy and all that. That's kind of my vibe for how I do this, and I'm just having fun with it. It's so cool. So
all right, well, we'll leave it at that. Fascinating. It's so lovely to talk to you.
Yes.
Likewise, I've enjoyed this. Thank you.
I don't have a question. I do have a comment. You're such a light. And your love for yourself and your love for, sharing this is really resonating. And, when Luis shared your IG with me, I'm like, yes,
this person.
He's a person, right? Without I have
Yep.
not really spoken to you before, but just looking through. So I just wanted to make sure that I give you my feedback from an audience from the outside. We just love it. I love it. And please don't stop sharing and continue to share. We're going to share you
Absolutely.
to whomever that can benefit from this. And I know
There's
with
people.
MS or without MS, you're living you're in the flow.
Love it.
Thank you.